Well, nothing goes better with pepper than a little bit of lemon. You ever had some lemon pepper?
Lock it up. Let's just lock it up. That's it. That's well done, my friend. Hi, diddly ho, neighborinos, and welcome into the QB List NFL Draft preview / wish list / it's the NFL Draft Show. Brett, we're recording this the night before the NFL Draft, but you're either listening to this the day of or after, so hopefully we make at least a couple of decent predictions. But how pumped are you? We both got our team gear on. We're kind of connected now, though, with the whole John Harbaugh and, half the team coming over to the Giants. And this is the first time in a long time I'm actually excited for the Giants draft. Last year, but I actually have expectations of a decent season, so I'm ready to get.
You know what they say, Jay? You know what they say? One man's trash is another man's treasure. So, no, it's one of those things where the Giants kind of do feel like Baltimore North right now. And I'm sure that Harbaugh will have. I don't want to say I'm sure. I hope for Giants fans, because Ravens fans still, there's a special place in our heart for John Harbaugh, who led us to a Super Bowl win. I wish him, the former guys, success. I love some of the guys that went over. Pat Ricard, Isaiah Likely, two of my favorite Ravens, now Giants, obviously. So yeah, it's going to be one of those things where there is going to be a connection between Baltimore and New York for probably the foreseeable future, where Ravens fans might be saying, gosh, what could have been, or Giants fans are going to be saying, why did we take your garbage? So hopefully it's the former, not the latter.
We've had a lot of the latter here in the past decade or so, but that's all changing because the Giants actually made a pre-draft trade that I was excited about. Now, I saw some people, I will not name names, but on particular networks, on particular morning shows, talking about how Giants fans are, shouldn't be excited about this pick because it's a lottery ticket and you don't know what's going to happen. Well, yeah, obviously, but the situation was deteriorating. To get the 10th overall pick for Dexter Lawrence, there were people saying that they wouldn't get a second. I'm ecstatic. If the Giants have if they really want to move up and grab somebody, they can. I hope they trade back at least once from one of those, either the 5 or the 10. But the Giants trading Dexter Lawrence for the 10th overall pick, 2 top 10 picks. What do you think of the trade? Do you like the move for the Giants, or you think it's more beneficial to the Bengals?
Well, based on the way, like you said, the situation had deteriorated between Lawrence and the Giants, I think this is a win for the Giants, certainly, just because I didn't think with the leverage that they had, or the lack of leverage that the Giants had in the situation, that they would get this kind of compensation for it. But I also think it's a win for the Bengals. Not only are they getting a great player in Dexter Lawrence, who they extended immediately after acquiring.
Young, too. He's only 28 years old.
But they trade away the number 10 overall pick, and it's not like they've really hit on their first round picks in the near future, in the recent past anyway. So maybe not drafting in the first round is a key to their success. It's like, hey man,
the Rams,
we can't evaluate talent. Let's just, get talent that somebody else has evaluated already. We've seen that they've done well in the NFL. We don't have to guess anymore.
Exactly. That's, it's basically drafting Dexter Lawrence, and I think anybody will take that. Granted, absolutely. You have to pay him a little bit more, but shout out Joe Burrow for putting the pressure on the Bengals to make this move, because that definitely had a little bit to do with it. There, apparently, this is a make or break year for him in Cincinnati. If I can't see him in another uniform, but I would have liked to see him in a Giants uniform. But I'm happy with Mr. Jaxson Dart at this point in time. But
yeah, I don't mind Joe Burrow leaving the AFC North as a Ravens fan. That would not break my heart whatsoever.
I understand that. Maybe we'll save that for another day. But before we jump in, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 10 or 12 so of the biggest names that, just from a fantasy perspective. And Brett and I are going to go back and forth and we're going to pick it. We called it a wish list, whether that's for fantasy, whether that's a prediction. We'll leave that up to your imagination. But basically, we're going to talk about a fit for these guys, what it would do for fantasy, how realistic it is. And I actually just dropped a few days ago a 10 bold predictions for the NFL draft. And it was kind of that in the middle, like not crazy, outlandish. Some of it was, but realistic in a sense where, okay, I could see that, one of those type of things. Some of my picks tonight will be from that. Some of them won't. So go check that out on QB List. See for yourself which are and which are not. And make sure you check out Adam Nardelli's Rookies to Know series. He just dropped KC Concepcion. And man, he's doing some fantastic work. A little deeper dive into these guys specifically. Before we jump into them, Brett, got anything you want to add? I don't know why I just said that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was more of a best fit list for me. Like when I thought of wish list, I thought of what are these players wishing for? Like what situation are these players wishing for? So that's kind of the tone that I took when making my selections here. Not necessarily what might be best for their fantasy outlook in the short term, but maybe just, best fits for the player. And actually, as I go through these, a lot of these would be really nice for fantasy also.
Right. That's the thing. It's like they kind of go hand in hand, right? Like we're looking at teams that there's opportunity and their skill set fits perfectly. So that's a good thing, both for the players and for those who draft them in fantasy. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We will start at the running back position. Brett, I see a name there as I wear my Cam Scatterboo jersey. I don't know if I love this pick. Jeremiyah Love, who you got?
Jeremiyah Love. I mean, gosh, that Cam Scatterboo jersey, I think he will stick around with the Giants, but man, that's going to be like the best RB2 jersey in the league, man. I think Jeremiyah Love gets drafted by the Giants either at 5 or at 10 on Thursday night. I think that that's assuming he doesn't get taken by the Cardinals at 3. That was kind of picking up steam for a little bit. I don't think they're going to take a running back after they signed James Conner and they signed Tyler Algier and they still have Trey Benson. Like shoving another running back into that committee doesn't necessarily make sense. And for fantasy purposes, we want a situation where Jeremiyah Love can be the undisputed number 1. We don't want him going somewhere where someone's going to vulture goal line touches like Tyler Algier and James Conner. We want somewhere where he can be the undisputed number 1.
Or Jaxson Dart.
Listen, man, I love Scatterboo. I really do. But I'm wondering if, especially with the steam that I'm seeing behind Love to the Giants, if Scatterboo isn't as healthy as we all think. Like that was a really gross ankle injury. As much as we love the player, like I would also love to not have him have to rush back from that injury. So I'm gonna project Jeremiyah Love to the Giants. I think it would be a win-win for fantasy and for Love himself.
Yeah, I'm still unsure how I feel about that. And we were talking about this before we started recording that, he's arguably the most talented player in this entire draft. Obviously, I'm not going to be mad if the Giants draft Jeremiyah Love. I don't want them to, because even though with, the successful draft we had last year and the moves they made, we still have a lot of holes. And we've got a serviceable, I wouldn't say he's a good.
You mentioned all the draft needs that the Giants have, but you have to remember this is still the same front office that took Saquon number 2 overall in 2018. Like they're not afraid to spend.
That is incorrect. Thank you, sir. That was Dave Gettleman that did.
Was it Gettleman? Oh,
yes, that was Gettleman. Which he doesn't do this in the computers, and he's got a binder like this. And
I thought it was showing. I thought that was his first year. That's my fault.
No, it's all good. But I'm glad it's not. Although it hasn't necessarily. Well, it's been a little better. We at least got Jaxson Dart, but anything's better than Gettleman. Be honest. Just ask Steve Smith. But So I think where was I at? That's right. We've got, even if Scatterboo isn't completely ready, we've got Tyrone Tracy, we've got Devin Singletary. That they're not great by any means, but they're serviceable enough to, carry the load, especially with Jaxson Dart able to rush. I would rather go elsewhere. If we make the move, if we draft him, that's just another weapon for Jaxson Dart and this offense. We've seen plenty of offenses, elite offenses, use 2 running backs pretty consistently. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it does, so be it. Now, I've got a little bit of a spicy take here, and I'll let you decide if you think it's in my bold predictions, but it's been a while since we've had a Jerry Jones freak out type move that makes no sense but makes splashes in the headlines.
So the Micah Parsons trade doesn't count?
Not really. I mean, not
in relation to the draft, I guess.
Not in a positive way in Jerry's mind. So I know they just signed Javonte Williams to a 3-year deal, which I know I was just talking good about Javonte Williams. I love him, but got 2 voidable years on that contract. They can get out from under him. There's a lot of guaranteed money. They can get out this year relatively cheaply. The Giants are all over with the trade. The Eagles are all over the news with A.J. Brown. The Commanders, man, those old/new jerseys, they're phenomenal. Nobody's talking about the Cowboys. Jerry can't deal with that. I've just got a feeling that they're going to make the move. Look what they gave up for Herschel Walker. I mean, it's going to be, I could see them. They know, well, I don't know if Jerry knows, but most of them know that window's closing for Dak Prescott. They've got the wide receivers. They've got the tight end. Javonte's fine, but man, you put Jeremiyah Love on that offense, and from a real perspective, from a fantasy perspective, one of the best offenses in the league just gets better. I mean, you're looking at the greatest show on turf in Texas. It's I know it's less than 50%, less than probably 70% likely, but I think it could happen, and I would love it from a fantasy perspective for Love.
How would you love it from a Giants perspective to see your division rival trade up and snag him?
If they give up way too much.
Okay. You're hoping that kind of trade like tanks the rest of their draft, essentially.
Right. Kind of like, when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley and it didn't make any sense for the team, but that's here nor there. But let's move on to Jeremiyah Love's teammate. Let me start that over. Let's move on to Jeremiyah Love's teammate, Mr. Jadarian Price, who is pretty much consensus number 2 running back. There's some talk for some others, but I think he's clearly the number 2 for most. I actually think that, and it's chalk, but I do think that Seattle winds up taking him at the end of the first round, whether it's, with that pick, if they move up once or twice to leapfrog somebody at the end of the round that needs it. But, they lost Kenneth Walker. It's simple. They lost Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet had that terrible injury in the playoffs in January, 3-4 months ago. They have, what's his name? Martinez, right? This is something Martinez.
Emmanuel Wilson?
No. Oh, that's right. They did sign Emmanuel Wilson. They signed Emmanuel Wilson. Who did they draft last year? Let me take a look real quick. I'll pull up the depth chart. Who am I thinking? Did they get rid of? Who was it? Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. I don't know. Right now, the only running backs. No, they said this is. Did they sign Emmanuel Wilson?
I believe so.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it wasn't showing up. Right now, all they have on the depth chart is Emmanuel Wilson, George Alani, and Kenny McIntosh that are active. Now, Zach Charbonnet, once he's healthy, he'll be ready to roll. But they need not only a starting running back for the beginning of the season, they need some running back depth. And Jadarian Price is a guy that can form a nice 1-2 punch with Charbonnet, but can also carry the load until Charbonnet's healthy. Share the workload with Wilson, Halani, getting a couple of carries in there sprinkled in. And I just think that it just makes too much sense.
I could see it. I could see it. I like Price. I feel like I like him as a complimentary back though. I like him as maybe an RB2 somewhere, maybe a part of a committee. Um, Kind of a change of pace type of guy. And I really think that the backfield most in need of that kind of role right now is in Jacksonville, where Bashal Tutin is projected to be the starter heading into the season. They lose Travis Etienne Jr. To the Saints. And I think there's a nice niche role there in Liam Cohen's offense. You know, he loves his running backs. I think Price could fit really nicely with the Jaguars. Their first pick in the draft, I believe, is not until the second round. Um, I'm not seeing a Jaguars pick until number 56 overall, late in the second round. So if they're trying to get Price, they're probably going to need to trade up to do it. I don't know if they will, or they need things to fall just right for them. Maybe they can get him late second round somehow if something happens that we've seen guys fall in the draft before. So,
Yep.
but I really like Price in Jacksonville as that change of pace back, kind of that committee feel there.
I love that. And he would, man, his fantasy value would skyrocket in a place like Jacksonville in that Liam Cohen offense. I would love to see it. I'd hate to see it for Bashal Tutin because I don't know if he's a RB1 from an NFL standpoint, but he can handle a decent amount of work. And, a guy like Price coming in would definitely kill his vibe, I guess you could say. We're going to talk about one more running back here. And he's from, I'm not going to say that because that's going to ruin my pick. Let's talk about one more running back here. And this is more of a big, powerful guy. Jonah Coleman out of Washington. Brett, where do you have him going?
So Jonah Coleman reminds me a lot of guys like Maurice Jones-Drew, Doug Martin, just that big, compact running back that could be a little bit more shifty, maybe than you might expect based on stature. But he's just a wrecking ball between the tackles. I could see him succeeding in a place like San Francisco. Kind of as that complimentary smash mouth back to Christian McCaffrey, trying to lighten the load for CMC a little bit this year. I think Coleman could be a really nice piece in a Shanahan offense. We want all of our fantasy assets to be in Shanahan offenses, so why not
Absolutely.
project this guy to go into the OG Kyle Shanahan offense in San Francisco?
I like that. And well, his dad's really the OG though, right? And you say,
Well, I guess.
I mean, if we're talking the OG, I mean, he's the ODB, and then Kyle's the OG. But moving on from that, this was in my bold predictions, and you'll see why. I think the Seahawks are going to double dip and take Jonah Coleman as well because they need
Double
that
tap.
depth. Yeah, a little double tap action. They just, like I said, the depth chart is barren. Charbonnet's dealing with a gruesome injury. We don't know when he's going to be back. I don't think Charbonnet can handle a heavy workload by himself anyways, sustained over a full season. And I really like the way those two would mesh together. I mean, in my rookie rankings, I said if I were to describe Jonah Coleman in one word, it would be whammy, like champ kind. That was a terrible whammy, but I didn't want to wake up the kids. He's a powerful runner with a well-rounded skill set. I mean, he can his did I get you there? That was like a goofy whammy. That was awful. But
I'm so proud of you for sticking the H before the W though.
whammy. Got to throw that in there like champ kind. He's not an explosive runner. He's below average size, but he can I feel like he can handle a little more of a workload than Charbonnet could. I feel like they would just match well together. Sorry, not Charbonnet. I feel like he and Price would match well together. They can handle the workload, give Charbonnet plenty of time to get healthy, and then have a nasty three-headed committee. And Charbonnet, they haven't extended him. Is this his last season? I know there's talks of extending him, but there's also, There's always talks.
I was going to say, I love that call for 2026. I worry about it for beyond that, right? Like if we're seeing a three-headed dragon in Seattle, that could be a problem for
He's a
fantasy.
free agent after this season, so
Okay, so maybe it could work out for everybody.
right. And it does make sense because I also, this was before I was making any predictions, but I comped him to Chris Carson, so that fit kind of makes sense and ties everything together. But let's move on to the wide receivers. And as we were getting ready to hop on, we talked about really you could take all of these wide receivers and all of these teams, throw them in a bag, shake them all up, and it would make sense for just about all of them.
Yeah,
Two of the top. Good.
There's a lot of teams that like have a specific need for wide receiver or at least wide receiver depth, right? So, like you said, take these guys, throw them in a bag, and pull them out of a hat and say, "Oh, you're going to
the New
wherever."
York Giants, because the Giants definitely need another wide receiver. And honestly, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here. Carnell Tate, Jordyn Tyson. I don't know which one it is. I think they'll wind up with one of those two guys, whether it's at 5, whether, they use some draft capital to jump back up with the 10 and, snag one of them at 7. But there's an obvious need for a guy on the other side of the field of Malik Neighbors, who we don't know how healthy he is. Lost Wan'Dale Robinson. Other than that, we don't have much of anything, although I do like the Darnell Mooney signing. I think he's a nice complementary piece. Both of those guys I would be perfectly fine with. I would prefer Tate, but I would be perfectly happy with Jordyn Tyson, especially as much love as he's getting right now from his recent workouts.
Yeah, I think that either of them would make sense in the Giants offense. And I know you said earlier that you weren't necessarily excited about the Giants picking Love, but that was more because he was a running back, not necessarily because he was an offensive weapon.
Absolutely. I think we have enough at the running back position to get by. That's not the case of wide receiver. Although, I mean, technically, I guess you could consider Isaiah Likely a wide receiver if he can just keep his toe in bounds.
And cuts deep.
Sorry.
Or just hang on to the football for a half second longer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was a touchdown. I know. That was a touchdown.
Let's move on before I flip a table, Jay. All right. Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate, I think, like, it's one of those like no-brainers, right? Like there's so many people that are projecting him to Washington at 7. And I think that fit makes a lot of sense. He's one of the most polished receivers coming into this draft class. And I think he would slot in immediately, not slot in, he'd go on the outside. He would jump in immediately into this offense as the wide receiver 2 behind Terry McLaurin, and he would have an excellent mentor in McLaurin. I just think it makes too much sense surrounding Jaden Daniels with weapons and making that Washington offense better than it was last year, because they really struggled. Even before Luke McCaffrey went down with an ACL, they really struggled on the outside and had to run out guys like Chris Moore more often than not. And they definitely want to improve the talent pool in that wide receiver room. I think Carnell Tate fits the bill.
And then, I love that. I love that pick.
Sliding over to Jordyn Tyson. This one is a little bit spicier because I think that this team would have to move up to acquire him in the draft. But man, Jordyn Tyson in Buffalo would be electric. Like that kind of raw talent going to the Bills and working with the best quarterback in the world right now would be a lot of fun. I know that the Bills haven't had a great history in drafting first round wide receivers, but they certainly need one. So I think Tyson fits the bill there. And I think his style, like just his kind of raw talent and just going up and getting the ball, I think that meshes well with what Allen's trying to do. They have Khalil Shakir underneath. They have DJ Moore doing whatever he's going to do. I think that Jordyn Tyson fits the bill for Buffalo.
And I apologize, Brett, for my dog, Peppa. Yes, named after Peppa Pig. I have 2 girls and a boy. We have Peppa Pig, Peppa for Peppa Pig, and Gabby for Gabby's Dollhouse. And then we have
Nice.
2 other cats, Betty and Blanche from Golden Girls.
Oh, I love
But
that.
we will. I was gonna do Rose, but Betty just fit. So
Yeah. Well, nothing goes better with Peppa than a little bit of lemon. You ever had some lemon pepper?
lock it up. Let's just lock it up. That's it. That's well done, my friend. God, that's what I should have used. Makai Lemon, who I actually have ranked as my wide receiver 1 from a fantasy perspective, and that's just because he could go at so many different places and have that Amon-Ra, St. Brown type of second half of the season rookie impact. And my top choice for him, if he winds up with the Rams, my goodness, Sean McVay's mind with that type of skill set all over the field, whether I don't think that there's going to be any issues with Puka Nacua playing this season. But if there is, Makai Lemon to the moon. But he can do it all. He's a yak. I mean, obviously he's a little smaller, but he's a yak monster who I compared to the Kool-Aid man busting through some random person's wall, which I wonder if Kool-Aid has to pay for that when that happens. But regardless, it was a Biletnikoff winner for the best college receiver. Good hands. Doesn't have a lot of explosiveness, but in a Sean McVay system, you don't need explosiveness. He's going to put you in an opportunity to succeed. I mean, like we talked about, you could put him in San Francisco. You could put him, maybe not Carolina, but you can put him in just about any of these other positions, any other places. And from day one, he can be a fantasy contributor and put up borderline wide receiver 1 numbers very early.
Yeah, I think Makai Lemon is an extremely exciting pick. Like you said, just a slot guy, ran like 75-80% of his routes in the slot last year in college, and just amazing hands. Very, very, very few drops. I think his drop percentage was like under 3% for his college career. So he's a guy that just has Velcro hands and is going to separate in the slot. He's going to remind people a lot of like a Julian Edelman type that's just open constantly across the middle. I really like the call for the Rams. I think that this might be pie in the sky, but put him in Kansas City, man. I know they have a lot of like short yardage separators with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, but like let Andy Reid get creative with this guy and watch the bandwagon fill up. I despise the Chiefs because my team's in the AFC. So I like naturally have to despise the Chiefs just because they've been so good. But adding a weapon for Mahomes makes too much sense. And I think Lemon fits the bill. I think he could be somebody that Andy Reid just puts in that Juju Smith-Schuster role and who just absolutely flourishes in that offense.
I still can't get over that lemon pepper segue. That was just perfect. That was phenomenal. No, I love that. And that's what I said, like before we started. You put any of these guys in just about any of these situations for these wide receiver needy teams, obviously there's some better fits, but Makai Lemon can, like I said, you can go just about anywhere. And I would love to see him, like you said, I was going to stop you. Just let Andy Reid get creative. That's it. Let him use Kenneth Walker like he did Jamal Charles. I'm not saying, Jamal Charles, truthers don't. I'm not saying Kenneth Walker is as good as Jamal Charles, but he could use him like him. My goodness. Getting all hot and bothered just thinking about it. But speaking of getting hot and bothered, the next guy on the list is somebody who I comped to Laviska Shenault, but in a good way. KC Concepcion, who I talked about when we were talking about wide receivers in our last show. I would love to see him, the place that, let me see how I can describe this without giving it away, but then I'm going to say it in 2 seconds after. The type of player that Laviska Shenault could have been was originally on this team. Any guesses?
I mean, I see it in the show sheet, so I don't want to cheat, but like,
yeah, that's true.
I don't follow.
He's got a Deebo Samuel type of skill set. Can line up all over the field. Obviously, Laviska Shenault, love you, dude. I appreciate you listening every episode. That didn't work out. But KC Concepcion, is it KC Concepcion? I can't say it. I feel like I have to say Concepcion. Like I have to add and do the Italian hand. Like
I'm pretty sure there's an accent mark over the O, so I believe you are pronouncing it correctly.
I don't want to
double check.
I take that seriously, in all honesty, because some people don't make jokes with their last names and stuff. And I mean, growing up with a last name of Felicio, spelled Felicio, yeah, I've heard some pretty. I've heard it all. Let's just say that. But I would love to see that type of skill set that can line up all over the field. Basically Deebo Samuel all over again in San Francisco. And hopefully this guy can just stay healthy. They have a need for wide receivers on the younger side. George Kittle, we don't know when he's going to be back. They do have Mike Evans. Is he going to be able to stay on the field? He could also, KC can also help with some of the work in the backfield as well. Not a lot, but he takes 3-4 touches in a game. That's 3-4 touches that CMC can sit on the sideline. So I think it's another one that just is makes a lot of sense from both a fantasy and a real world perspective. And I could see a really nice fit in that system.
Yeah, I like it. When I look at KC Concepcion, I see a guy like T.Y. Hilton, right? Like that
Ooh.
super speed, special teams maven, kind of. I think the term that I've seen, I don't love this term because I feel like it cheapens his value. But I've seen a lot of people refer to him as like a gadget plus kind of guy.
Swiss Army knife. That sounds a little better, but still, that's like cheesy.
So this team that I think he would fit well in picks around the time that I think he'll go in the draft. And geographically, it makes a lot of sense too. KC Concepcion played at A&M his senior year, or this past season. I don't know if it's senior year. This past season, but he had his best college season at NC State. I could see him going to the Carolina Panthers. I think that he would flourish in a Dave Canales offense. I think that the Panthers need to improve their wide receiver room behind Tet McMillan. Xavier Legette looks like he's a trade candidate for draft day. Jalen Coker is good. I like Jalen Coker a lot, but I feel like Concepcion could fill a different role in that offense, kind of be that third guy in the slot. And, it's not like the Panthers have two good tight ends that they need to be running 12 personnel. Like, get them into 11 personnel, spread the field with their elite outside weapons, let Bryce Young cook. That may be the first time.
Hold on.
Yeah, I know.
Do you want me to edit that out?
I don't know. I said it, and then it sounded better in my head, and then it came out of my mouth, and I was like, maybe not.
Let Bryce Young heat something up in the microwave. How about that?
Yeah, let Bryce Young lean cuisine.
There you go.
But yeah, like give Dave Canales more weapons to be creative with his quarterback, and let the Carolina Panthers take Concepcion and let him get back to North Carolina and do his thing.
Hey, that's NC State's like 20 minutes away from my house. I'm like 2 hours from Charlotte. So, I wouldn't mind going to see it, and makes sense because Laviska Shenault also played for the Panthers at one time. But that also makes a lot of sense because guy with somewhat of a similar skill set, Omar Cooper Jr., that's who I have going to Carolina. And similar, basically everything you said. I think it would be a nice compliment to Tet McMillan's skill set. Love to see him in Dave Canales' system. He is possibly the most talented yak man in this entire class. I mean, he can make guys miss on a dime. I think we're gonna hear his name day one. And he's another one that I feel like he could wind up being the best value from a fantasy perspective. He's not getting the hype of all these other big names. And if he lands in a situation like that, he doesn't have to be a wide receiver 1 to return an enormous amount of value. If you can get a consistent wide receiver 2 for free, I'll take that all day. And I mean, he's got talent to push that borderline wide receiver one eventually, but I think either one, you could flip flop both of those. You could put Cooper in San Francisco and, and Concepcion in Carolina, and I think it would work just fine.
So I look at Omar Cooper Jr. and, watching him at Indiana last year win a national championship with Fernando Mendoza. One of the things that I saw from him that made him stand out as a receiver, is separation, right? Like his play at the line to get and create open space. And then timing routes, right? And when I think timing routes, I think of Mike McDaniel. I think of what the Miami offense was previously and what this Chargers offense could be coming into this year with Justin Herbert. I really like Cooper to take over like a Tyreek Hill type of role where he's just running those deep crossers, getting that elite separation, running those crossers and finding space in that offense. I think he could be a really nice complement to Ladd McConkey. And I think that there's room to grow in that offense as well. I know Quentin Johnson is there. I know Trey Harris is there. I know Oronde Gadsden is there. But I really do believe that Cooper could flourish in that type of offense. My comp for him, this is a little bit optimistic, but my comp for him is like Rashee Rice, just somebody who is shifty at the line, gets open quick, and can be hit in those short yardage areas for big gainers after the catch. I think he could really, really do some things in a Mike McDaniel offense in LA. You are muted.
Did you say what I was trying to say is trying to be funny, but apparently not. You said your comp was Rashee Rice.
Oh, I definitely didn't read that. I definitely didn't read that in your stuff.
No. I wasn't saying that because I know you wouldn't read mine. But no, I just thought that I agree with everything you said. I love it.
You know what? That might be where I saw it. Like that might be where
No. No, I thought that was cool that we're both on the same train of thought. I think that that says something. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, it says something.
But yeah, man, Omar Cooper to LA. Take him to the promised land.
I like that. I like him in either LA, but I'm going to be real cheesy. Let's go ahead and ship on up to Boston for Mr. Denzel Boston, who you think is going to end up in Boston.
I do. I think he's going to live up to his name and head to Boston. There's a caveat with this, though, because just the type of wide receiver he is, he kind of profiles a little bit similar to like a poor man's A.J. Brown. So if the Patriots don't end up getting A.J. Brown, I think Denzel Boston is a nice consolation prize. I think he fits a similar role. My comps for him, I've seen Mike Williams. I've seen Cortland Sutton. I really do think that like a Mike Williams type, go up and get the ball type of receiver is what Denzel Boston's going to be. A huge red zone threat. I think the Patriots could use that. Hunter Henry was kind of their primary red zone threat last year. So to give Drake May another weapon inside the 20, inside the 10 would be something that I think the Patriots should look into, whether that's A.J. Brown, whether that's Denzel Boston. We'll have to wait and see.
My pick for Boston also has a caveat. It's the opposite. If New England does get A.J. Brown, I could see him landing in Philadelphia because I don't think that Devonta Smith can handle the wide receiver 1 role. I think he's perfectly suited as a wide receiver 2. And frankly, King Kong ain't got nothing on Denzel Boston. That man, 6'4", he climbs a ladder like he's scaling a skyscraper that comes down and nearly every ball thrown his way. Yes, I read that directly from what I wrote in my rankings, but just makes too much sense. And I definitely think he winds up in one of these two places. Maybe before they traded for Michael Pittman, I could have seen him in Philadelphia. Could have seen him in Pittsburgh. I just think one of these two teams, maybe Buffalo, I could also see. It just depends. I don't know. I could also see, hear me out on this one, Cincinnati. I got a feeling Cincinnati is going to take another receiver early in the first, if not the first round, maybe the second round. They seem to be all in on making sure. I know. Making sure that Joe Burrow knows that they are all in. They're willing to do what it takes to make him happy and get him the weapons that he needs. They've spent all offseason shoring up the offense, made that deal. Behind T. Higgins and Jamar Chase really isn't that much. It's guys of, it's been busts with Jermaine Burton, who's the guy they drafted last year.
Is Jermaine Burton the guy they drafted last year?
Didn't they take Burton 2 years ago? Or was that last year?
Yeah, you know what? Jermaine Burton was 2 years ago, because 2 years ago he was caught at a casino after curfew, and yeah, I remember that story.
So right now they're behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
There's Yoshivas.
They have Yoshi, he's fine. I don't think he's suited even to be a wide receiver 3. And then it's Mitchell Tinsley, Keyshawn Williams, Charlie Jones, Charlie Murphy, Xavier, not really Charlie Murphy, but Xavier Johnson. Yeah, so they need some help behind, especially, T. Higgins is at a hard time staying on the field.
Yeah. Actually, the more you talk about it, the more I don't hate that. I could see it, and I think that, kind of that T. Higgins mold is kind of where he fits, right? Like, we talked about player comps, and I almost put Mike Evans, but I didn't want to be that ambitious about it. But
I put Drake London for him.
Okay, that's fair. That's also ambitious, man. That's an optimistic projection. I love me some Drake London.
And I love me some Denzel Boston. He's one of my favorite receivers in this class. And shout out to my good friend over at FTN, Mr. Mike Tallis. He's the one who told me to make sure I dig deep into Denzel Boston, because he is a boss. Anybody else you want to talk about wide receivers?
There's plenty of guys I would like to talk about. Shout out to, oh gosh, what's his name?
You can't give a shout out after I give a shout out. That's not how this works.
I'm sorry. There is one more guy that I don't want to mention just because he's a local product to where I'm at currently. Colby Young out of Georgia, University of Georgia. Hometown is Binghamton, New York. We're right there in Vestal. So shout out Colby Young. Hope he gets drafted. Hope he finds a good landing spot. I think he's projected to be like a day 2 or day 3 guy, but really hoping that he finds a sound landing spot and fits wherever he ends up.
Have not heard the name, but I'm gonna have to dive in and take a look at it. And we definitely have those guys that come from those smaller schools, or well, not smaller school. You said Georgia, right? He played for.
He did work his way up to Georgia, though. He started at Lackawanna. So,
hey, I'm not going to make a joke there. So let's move on to the tight ends. And you might think this is a joke. I know you don't like this pick that I made for Kenyon Sadiq, but the Ravens, they need some more playmakers on offense. They need some help for Lamar Jackson and stop. I love DeAndre Hopkins, but he's not what he once was. Isaiah Likely left in free agency. Rashad Bateman is Rashad Bateman. Is Zay Flowers? I like Zay Flowers, but they need something else. And I know they just re-signed 32-year-old, you said, Mark Andrews, but that contract, I want to look it up while you talk about how much you hate my pick. But there's got to be some outs there with the contract at that age.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of Kenyon Sadiq going to Baltimore. I think, like you said, Baltimore does need some help for Lamar Jackson. I just think that the draft capital there should be used on an offensive lineman if you're going to help Lamar Jackson. Like, protect Lamar Jackson. That will help Lamar Jackson the most. I think that there are not to completely spoil where we're going later, but I think there are some value tight ends available in this draft. I think the tight end class is a little bit deeper than consensus. So I kind of like the Ravens to draft tight end on day 2 or day 3, as opposed to spending their, first round pick on Kenyon Sadiq.
No, I get that. And as I was pulling it up, the Ravens do have an out after this season for the contract with Mark Andrews. So to extend a 32-year-old at 3 years is knew there had to be something built in there. But
that's fair.
So I know you don't like the pick that I made for you, but where do you think Kenyon Sadiq may wind up? Would fit nice, however we want to say it.
I think it makes a lot of sense for Sadiq not to move at all. University of Miami graduate could stay in Miami. I think he could head down south to. I think he could stay in Miami and go to the Dolphins. They really don't have a tight end right now. I don't think Darren Waller is still on that roster. Last I checked, I mean, you have to check on that. But even then,
he might be making another terrible music video. So I think that's what he's doing.
Say, yeah, dating another WNBA diva and making more bad music videos. Yeah. Either way, I don't know if I trust Waller to stay healthy for 17 games. So having an elite dynamic playmaker at tight end would seriously benefit Malik Willis, who is pretty much devoid of playmakers outside of Devin Achane in that offense at the very moment. So, I mean, give me Sadiq to Miami. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think could benefit Sadiq because he steps into a TE1 role right away if he lands there.
I like that, absolutely. And if that does happen, man, people are going to be so overdrafting him because they're going to, he's going to be the only pass catcher there outside of Achane or however you say. I don't know if you say his name, ETN or whatever, but no, I think I like that move a lot. And Kenyon Sadiq is getting a lot of the hype, but don't look past Eli Stowers. He's got some hands on him as well. There's even been some talk of, is he even technically a tight end? Is he more of a wide receiver? And there's a team that I think is going to need a a tight end after this season. Give me Stowers to the Kansas City Chiefs. They could use some weapons, especially, they've got plenty, but what's the deal with Rashee Rice? Right now he's going to play, but how fast is that going to change? Is Hollywood Brown still on this team? He's on the Eagles.
Yep, he signed in Philly.
Ah, I did not know that. I did and I didn't. So, yeah. So, they've got Rashee Rice, obviously. Xavier Worthy has honestly been kind of a bust. I hate to say it, but Travis Kelce's getting a little long in the tooth. They need a playmaker somewhere, and I would not be surprised to see them add both a early wide receiver and an early tight end. I don't think that they wind up with Sadiq, but I think Stowers just makes a lot of sense for this team.
That's fair. My biggest knock on Stowers is his blocking capability, right? And you said he's more of a wide receiver than a tight end. They could transition him to that position. I hope that if that happens, he has more success than the most recent guy to do that in Chase Claypool. But I think that a team that could use someone like this is already using someone like this. And that's Cincinnati. They have Mike Gesicki in place this year at tight end, but they're very clearly not bothered by a lack of blocking at the position. They don't mind having a tight end who is primarily a pass catcher, which I think Stowers fits that role very well. I know you mentioned Cincinnati drafting a wide receiver. I think that it makes a little bit more sense for them to maybe draft a pass catching tight end. So I picked the Bengals. And I think it might not be a fantasy win for 2026, but I think Stowers would be the heir apparent there. I think he would be a really nice tertiary pass catcher in Cincinnati in 2027 and forward.
I love that. And I think it fits right in with the narrative that I was talking about earlier of them adding weapons for Joe Burrow to keep him happy. I think that makes a ton of sense, and that's really the only two guys from a tight end perspective that we're going to touch on, that we're going to talk about. We're not going to touch on anybody, but Fernando Mendoza, Raiders.
Yeah, I think he'll be a really good fit in Las Vegas, Jay.
Yeah. I don't know if he'll wind up there or not. No. But Ty Simpson, the pretty much consensus QB2 in this draft. A couple different places he could wind up. This feels like a Jets move to me. They got Geno Smith for a year. They've got some draft capital. They can move around. I feel like this is a Jets move. No other reason than just I feel it in my plums.
I get it, man. And I'll be honest with you, the situations that we chose, like the team context that we chose, are very similar, right? You have a veteran incumbent, or just a veteran who is basically the predetermined starter to begin the year, with opportunity to maybe give up that position if they don't play well. So you picked the Jets. I picked the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're a QB needy team for the future. I don't think Jacoby Brissett is the answer long term. And I think they'll be on the hunt for one of the top arms in this draft, whether they take Simpson or one of the other guys like Nussmeier, Klubnik, or Drew Aller. I think they will take a quarterback. I think Simpson makes a lot of sense here. He can sit and watch Brissett for a year, maybe two, and then become the guy.
No, I love that. And same thing, similar situation. Obviously, Geno Smith isn't the long-term answer for the Jets. Simpson doesn't have to go in right away, can learn from a veteran quarterback. Like you said, I think it's it's Jets and Jets West, basically. And it just makes a lot of sense for either one of those teams. But it'll be interesting to see where he winds up. That's pretty much it from position by position. Is there any... Now, I don't want to say lesser known, because mine is a name that from a bigger school, but who are some guys that we didn't talk about that you think are not being talked about enough and could be some late round sleepers this upcoming season?
I think I'm very curious. I'm not sure if any of these guys will be fantasy relevant this year, but I am really curious to see where they end up. A name that I followed really since the Senior Bowl when he popped was Georgia State wide receiver Ted Hurst. Big guy, fast guy, toolsy guy. I've seen comps as his ceiling could be Nico Collins, but the floor could be Denzel Mims. Like, we could see him in a Dallas Cowboys uniform or a Dallas Renegades uniform. Like, they're in the UFL. Like, who knows where he'll end up? He does have a lot of potential. He does have a lot of tools, but will he end up in the right situation? Will he develop coming out of Georgia State University?
There's no shame in being in the UFL. Laviska Shenault is in the UFL, but no, I get what you're saying there. I've not done. I actually like Hurst. Let me see who I comped him to.
He was getting a lot of hype out of the Senior Bowl and like early in draft season. It's kind of fizzled out as we've gotten closer to the drafts and other guys have done combines and workouts and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be shocked to see a team reach for him in maybe like the 4th or 5th, like somewhere on day 3.
So I did like him. I don't know if you're going to like this comp, though. I comped him to Darius Slayton.
Yeah, I get that. Like, that's kind of like smack in the middle of, the ceiling is Nico Collins and the floor is Denzel Mims. Like, yeah, Darius Slayton makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you. He's under the radar prospect. He's got that big playability. Just, I think he's a guy that it really is going to matter what team he lands on and how they're going to use him. Similar to,
and like I said, I didn't just use the Dallas Cowboys as an example. I think that he would fit really nicely there as kind of like a wide receiver 4 entering the season. Let him learn under CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, man. Like, let him watch those guys and pick up some things and turn into that heir apparent in Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those you could definitely not choose. It would be you would be hard pressed to find 2 other wide receivers that would be better to learn from than those 2 guys. There's one guy that I want to talk about, and it's a wide receiver as well. Antonio Williams, who comes out of Clemson. He's got hands. He's a little small for the way that he plays. He can come down with contested catches. He plays bigger than his frame, but he's more likely to be a slot guy. And he's a good route runner who relies on precision. I think you could see him in a place like New Orleans. They need some playmakers as well, especially after trading Rashee Rice. Especially after trading Rashid Shaheed, who re-signed to Seattle, which stinks for what's the guy that he was, the rookie that they drafted last year, Seattle. What's his name again?
Torrey Horton.
Yeah, who had his best game, looked like he was breaking out, and then they trade for Rashid Shaheed. But that being said, it's another one that I could see him winding up in a bunch of different places, and he's got a skill set that can contribute to many different teams and many different systems. I would like to see him with Kellen Moore.
I'm on the Tyler Shuck bandwagon, so give Shuck weapons. Let's go. Saddle up.
Let Shuck.
Sorry, go ahead.
I stopped. Let Shuck.
Let Shuck corn? Shuck crabs?
That's not really not even either better. Let Shuck.
Shuck oysters?
The last guy that we were talking about, or that you want to talk about, you have one more name for us.
Yeah, I do have one more name that I need to drop.
You teased us a little earlier too.
This is a true wish list for me personally, right? Like you talked about the Ravens surrounding Lamar Jackson with weapons. I think that this is that value tight end that they can get on day 2 or day 3. Give me Oscar Delp out of the University of Georgia. He has been called the best blocking tight end in the draft. He also ran a 4.48 40 or something crazy. Like this guy's big. He can block and he can run. He can cause problems in the seam. Like he doesn't have to be a flashy route runner. Just run up field, turn around, catch the ball. Like let's go. Stretch those linebackers, create space in that offense, and become that fullback type tight end that the Ravens lost in both Pat Ricard and Charlie Kolar this offseason. I think that Delp would be a great fit in Baltimore, and please let him fall to the Ravens on day 2 or day 3.
You got a lot of Georgia love in here, but that's another name that I haven't really done much on him, but I'll take a look at him. I think that makes too much sense, and honestly, probably a little more realistic than mine, but this is why we called it a wish list. So that's why we get to have a little fun with it. But this will be live draft day morning, 8 a.m. So if you're listening to this, it's draft day, baby. Or it already happened, but we're happy. Brett.
Are you going to hit me with that random question again?
Ooh, I didn't even think about that. What is the weirdest thing that you like to eat?
The weirdest thing that I like to eat. Okay.
I think every single one of these has. Oh no, you had a better one than me last week. The duck.
The duck or the horse? Yeah.
Yes.
The duck-sized horse, or the duck-sized horses, or the horse-sized duck. Yeah.
Right. All right. You know what? I'm gonna copy you. Let's get rid of the other one. What would you rather fight? A alligator-sized squirrel or 10 squirrel-sized alligators?
Okay. Man, I feel like the squirrel-sized alligators are not that intimidating. Like I feel like the little
they're kind of cute, right?
I mean, just like little teeth, man. I'm not, I had a puppy once. I'm not worried about it. Like I can handle it. I think I'd take the alligators because I think that
100
kind of like
100 100
No.
squirrel sized alligator. Okay.
Man.
Yeah, 100.
Okay, 100 of them changes the game a little bit. So now I'm thinking that I could just wrestle the squirrel. Like I think I could take a squirrel. Like I
don't know, man. They're shifty. Guy. They're shifty. They got that bushy tail.
You underestimate you severely underestimate my shiftiness. All right. I may be past my prime, but give me like 2 months. Like, do I get 2 months to train to fight this squirrel or what? Like,
get 2 days. 2 days is fair. I say that, and at my son's baseball practice on Sunday, I race the kids, and my son's turned 7. No, just turned 7. He's getting close to beating the old man. So I had to put on the and I'm pretty fast.
Yeah.
It took me about an hour to get my heart rate down. So, that's what happens when you're pushing 40. Yeah. But with that being said,
final decision, Jay. I've made my choice.
Okay,
all right?
let's hear it.
Give me the alligator-sized squirrel. Just keep them away from my nuts.
Hey! With that being said, happy draft day, everybody. We will be back. Brett, we haven't discussed this yet, but I'm thinking we'll go ahead and after this episode, do tight ends, and then we jump back into the live mock drafts with a very special guest, a good friend of mine, good friend of the industry, just a good person all around. May 6th, we will have Mr. Bob Harris on with us live drafting. He might even do his famous Eagle Scream. If you like Metallica, if you like fantasy football, that's basically what Bob Harris is. Those two things in one beautiful man of a package. Brett, you have anything to add before we get out of here?
Nah, man. You guys can find me at Fade That Man on Twitter, all the socials. Make sure you jump into the Pitcher List and QB List Discords. Chop it up with us on draft night. We'll be probably in there, complaining about what the Ravens and Giants have done in the first round. Make sure you check out the Hacks and Jacks podcast, myself and Scott Chu on the Pitcher List Podcast Network. And, just be good. Be good people.
Be good to each other. Choose love, not hate. For QB List, for Brett Ford, I'm Jay Felicio, and we out. What was the last thing you said? Because I was too worried about that dog.
I don't remember.